All right, so we've been talking about the way that Mashiach is going to be revealed. And we saw in our last shir that the Rebbe talks about Shlomo HaMelech and the process of how Shlomo HaMelech became the king, and the difference between the fact that he was born roy to be the king, that he would then had a hachtara, he was coronated as king before he practically became the day-to-day king, and then when he finally took on the full-on leadership of the kingdom. So we saw that the Rebbe Rashab had a discussion also about Shol HaMelech in the similar idea that he had the potential to be king. He was coronated as king, and then only later on he became more active and took on the role in a very revealed and open way to be the Melech. So what does that mean for our generation? Hiskalos Mashiach V'Doreinu is a topic for tonight. I can see better closed up without my glasses on. Okay. So as we said in our earlier chapters, so based on what we said before, it's not just that there is someone who is right to be Mashiach, but based on Chassidus, we're saying that there is someone who has that neshama already, at least for sure, Behelim, there is someone in every generation. And what we can see is that every single generation, when we see that the person that has this neshama of Mashiach that's in every generation, it's pretty much or more obvious amongst our Rabbeim, especially from the times of the Baal Shem Tov and onwards. Because from the time of the Baal Shem Tov, that's when we have the revelation of the Yechida of Torah, which of course is Chassidus. And because of Chassidus, which is the Yechida of Torah, we also then have really a revelation of the Yechida of Bnei Yisrael. Shehem Asom Tchila Hagiloi Shel HaYechida HaKolis Nishmas Mashiach. Because when we talk about the Yechida, when we say the parts of Chassidus and the Yechida of the Jewish people, that themselves, the revelation of those things is really the beginning of that revelation in general of the Yechida Klalos, which of course is the Neshama of Mashiach. But of course, we are talking about the final Mashiach, Shagal Es Yisrael B'Payil Mamish, who is going to redeem us finally, the Gula Hamitzvah Vashlema. V'lachein Hiskalos Mashiach Hamur Kan, Hayna Shemis Ayer Barotan Legalos Yisrael B'Payil Mamish, Shazel Lo Yeh B'Dar Shalifnei. When we talk about his Hiskalos Mashiach of our time, we're not talking about the fact that there is a neshama that has that potential, but we're talking about that second stage already, where really could say where there's already aroused this rotzain to Bigal B'nai Yisrael. So like we saw with Shlomo HaMelech, when he was anointed by Shmuel Hanavi, it was only later when there was a war that he had that arousal that he has to act like a goyal. He has to go to work and do something about it. So that's what we mean when we talk about the Hiskalos Mashiach. The Rebbe often talked about it was not just the idea that there is an obvious person who has that neshama, but more so that this ratzon to reveal the Jewish people, to redeem the Jewish people, was much more revealed. Just last week's parsha, those who learned the Sichos of the Beis, these are the Rebbe's words, very straight, direct expressions from the Rebbe. And this is what the Rebbe says. Of course, there is the existence of Mashiach, as we said, the Yechida Klalos, that's in every generation. Because we know, and this will, of course, we learned so far a number of times already, then every single generation, there is a person who is born from the children of Yehuda, David HaMelech, who is Ro'i, who has worthy to be Mashiach. So someone who is Ro'i, because of their righteousness of who they are, they can be the Redeemer. And when the right time comes, Hashem reveals himself to this person who is right to be Mashiach, and sends him to start acting. And then the Rebbe said, and if there would not be side issues that get in the way, in other words, not necessarily built Yitzhak, things that are not so good, that are holding back the revelation, then it would have, the Mashiach would have been already revealed and would have literally come already. As the Rebbe says, quoting the Frierdiker Rebbe, Mashiach was Mashiach that Rebbe always referred to the Frierdiker Rebbe as Mashiach generation. We already finished and we've already completed all the Avodah that's done. Was a gentleman who Rebbe talked about the beer and the tzitzis that have to be done, and elevating the world and spreading chatzis around the world. The Rebbe always said everything was already done. And we are all already ready to receive Mashiach, to greet him. Then the Rebbe says, in our time, all of these things have been nullified. So here the Rebbe was saying, and now, so because the Frierdiker Rebbe was saying that he would have come immediately had it not been for these things that are holding Mashiach back, the Rebbe said now, since we not only do we have the Metzias of Mashiach, we already have the Hisgalos of Mashiach. So the Rebbe said then, again, remember Tafshin Beis, Parshas Vayera, that now the only thing that's left to do is to accept it, to take upon ourselves, as we've seen the movement around the world, to have a haftarah, to accept Mashiach Zekenu. So the Metzias is there, the Hisgalos, the idea that Mashiach knows that he needs to start acting to redeem the people is there. And now it's just our part that we have to be makabel pnei Mashiach. So from these words, we type in Hadvarim Bar. What do we see very clearly from the words of the Rebbe? Sheizgalos Mashiach Hamur Kan Kidavar Shebahayve Eno Hisgalos Mufsheta Shel Inyan Bechina or Matzah Shel Mashiach. When the Rebbe, we see very clearly in this Sikha, when the Rebbe was talking about a revelation of Mashiach as something now, right now, this is not a revelation, it's not a concept, it's not an aspect, it's not an era of Mashiach, it's not like, the idea of Yemais Mashiach or an era or a time, a new age. The Rebbe was talking very specifically about the revelation of a particular person who has this koach of Mashiach, the Sitarenu Mashiach Shabbadarenu, Vahu Hiskala, the way the Rebbe referred to it. The Sitarenu, the Mashiach of our generation, and he has been revealed already. So what it seems that based on what we've learned in our previous year, that this revelation that the Rebbe is talking about is a revelation of the essence of Mashiach as Melech HaMashiach, right? So it's not just about the potential is there, or that we know that this person is now has that neshama, but rather it's the idea that he is acting, right? Like the second stage that we saw with Shaul HaMelech and with Shlomo HaMelech in this as Melech HaMashiach. Shekayach HaMashiach sheba yoytze me'helem el hagiloy b'ratzayin u'b'pa'ulas lahavi geula b'pa'al mamish she'as cholav shem Mashiach. So the Koyach HaMashiach that he had within him, in other words, the fact that he was wrought you to be Mashiach, and he was from Shevet Yehuda and from the Zerah David, so that now comes out in a very revealed way. It's Baratzain, and it comes out in his things that he starts doing to start actually bringing the Geula. And as soon as that happens, that's when he's called already Mashiach. So the fact that, for example, going back again to our example, Shaul HaMelech was anointed. So he was anointed, but nobody knew about it. Then when he saw it was time to go, that they were being attacked, that he had to go to war. So at that point in time, it became very open that he was leading Bnei Israel. He was going to redeem them. He was going to save them from the enemies. And at that point, that's already doing something. Okay? And the same way, Shlomo HaMelech was born, of course, he had the neshama. When there was an argument, machlokes, about the melucha, David explicitly said that Shlomo had to be crowned, So he was already had the Shem Mashiach. He had the name of the anointed one, even though he didn't actually take on the final steps of being the king until, of course, David HaMelech had passed away. So based on what we're saying here, this then next stage where the Rebbe is saying all that needs to be done is that final public coronation, where we have to just receive and accept Mashiach. That we could say is like that third stage where we talked about, where there's this revelation to everyone through his actions. Everybody recognizes that Mashiach is Mashiach. He is who he is. So we're saying that spiritual neshama that initially is completely hidden, and then the person actually knows that he is Mashiach and starts acting. That third stage is when the whole world is actually drawn down because of the things that Mashiach does into this very physical world, and everyone can see based on the things that happen that we're talking about Mashiach here. So we're in Shabbos Parshas Sara now, and so Nun Beis, the Rebbe says something very similar the next week, same year, next week. The whole, or Shabbos Parshas Sara, as we're like we're in right now. The whole Dover Dar Nolet Echad Mizera Yehuda Shu Roy Leis Mashiach Israel. In every single generation, there is someone born from the Shevet Yehuda who has the potential, who is worthy to be Mashiach. So almost exactly the same as the Rebbe had said the week before. Someone who is Roy, who is worthy because of his greatness to be the Goyal, and when the right time comes, Hashem will reveal himself to this person and will send him to start acting and to bring the final Gula. So the Rebbe said, so based on the notification, based on the announcements that the Rebbe or Nesita Reinu had said, who is the only, right, Shliach HaYachid, the only Shliach of our generation, HaMashiach HaYachid Shebedereinu, the only Mashiach, right, the only one of our generation, Shekvar Simu Es Kol HaAvayda. We have already finished all the Avayda we need to do. Hooray, move on. So now we understand that now we're ready for that next stage. We're like when Moshe Rabbeinu told Hashem, it's now time to send. It's now time for this shlichus to come to fruition. Move on. So from here we understand. So that means that what is the one thing that's left? The only thing left to do in this avodah of the shlichus of the Gula is the kabel pei Mashiach Zakein b'kol mamish, is to actually receive Mashiach, to greet him. The last thing left is the kabel pei Mashiach Zakein. It's like that public coronation that has to happen. We have to acknowledge him so that he can fulfill his shlichus and he can take us out of Golus. So too, we look at this, what we see, the intention of what are we saying? Who says shlachna b'yat tishlach? This was what Moshe Rabbeinu said to Hashem. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu came to Moshe and said, okay, it's time to go redeem the Jewish people, right? So this is the request of Moshe from Hashem, that he should send Mashiach. Right? Just send whoever it is you're going to send and let redeem the Jewish people. As the Rebbe spoke about at the beginning of that Seicha. When the Rebbe said that it's already begun, this message, this shlichus of Hashem should send the person already, send Mashiach. So the Rebbe is very clearly telling us that second stage where Mashiach Tzidkenu he already accepted that shlichus. He already accepted that appointment that Hashem revealed himself and sent him. So now all that's missing is that he could finally fulfill and actually do that final shlichus. So Mashiach is in the generation. He knows what the shlichus is. He knows what he has to do. He's already started doing it. And all that's missing is the final end of it all. To finally get us out of this Golos where we have the base of English, we can actually do everything that we need to do. Aliba, I see you come. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I'm sorry. Last week I was mixed up with the hours. I opened at 1 o'clock like usually, and then I see no one is there, and I realized I made a mistake. Okay. וביאור הדברים כפי הבנתנו. And now we'll explain things as he understands it. בי"א שבט תשי"א, הואיל נשיא דורנו ליטול על עצמו את האחריות להנהגת עדת חסידי חב"ד ולשבת על כיסא אבותיו. So in י"א שבט תשי"א, the Rebbe took upon himself the responsibility to be the leader of the חסידי חב"ד, and to sit on the chair of his fathers. וכבר באותו יום, במאמרו הראשון, הציג בצורה ברורה את חזונו הגדול והבהיר, את משמעותו של התפקיד שנתן על עצמו, הבאת הגאולה בפועל ממש. So already at the same day, the first Maimer, the Rebbe presented in a very clear way his big vision, the meaning of the job that he took upon himself, and this is to bring the Geula בפועל ממש. ועל יסוד השוואת שבעת הדורות של נשיאות חב"ד לשבעת הצדיקים שמאברהם משה, שאברהם החל ומשה סיים להמשיך את השכינה למטה בפועל, שהאדמו"ר הזקן החל, ובדור הזה, הדור השביעי לאדמו"ר הזקן, תמשך השכינה למטה בארץ בשלמות ובקביעות בגאולה השלמה. And on the Rebbe compared the 7 generations of the Nisim to the 7 tzaddikim from Abraham to Moshe Rabbeinu, that Abraham started and Moshe completed to bring the Shechina down to by Maaseh Torah and by building the Mishkan. The same thing is also about bringing the Geula in action before that the Alter Rebbe started, and we are on the 7th generation to the Alter Rebbe. So the Shechina will come down to earth in a state, steady by Geula. Okay, and that what? Permanently, thank you. And like the Rebbe said over there in the Maimer, והנה זה תובעים מכל אחד ואחד מאיתנו דור השביעי, דכל השביעים חביבים, דאם היות שזה שאנחנו בדור השביעי הוא לא על פי בחירתנו, ולא על ידי עבודתנו, ובכמה עניינים אפשר שלא כפי רצוננו, מכל מקום, הנה כל השביעים חביבים, שנמצאים אנחנו בעקבתא דמשיחא, בסיום עקבתא, והעבודה לגמור המשכת השכינה, ולא רק שכינה, כי עיקר השכינה, ובתחתונים דווקא. So, we are being demanded from each one of us, because we are the 7th generation, and all the 7th are Chavivin. So even though that we are the 7th generation, it's not because we chose it, and not because we did something, not because of avodah, and maybe in a few inyonim, and it's maybe not as our wish, but the 7th is the Chavivin, and we are in the times of the Ikvata de Mashiach, at the end of the Ikvata, and our job is to finish bringing the Shechina down to earth, and not only Shechina, but the main Ikar Shechina, and דווקא תחתינו. ובאותו מאמר, המשיך והתווה גם דרך ברורה להגיע למטרה זו. And also the same Maimon, the Rebbe gave the clear way how to get to this purpose. וזה תובעים מכל אחד מאיתנו, שידעו שנמצאים בדור השביעי, שכל מעלת השביעי שהוא שביעי לראשון, שהנהגת הראשון היה שלא חיפש לעצמו כלום, ואפילו לא מסירות נפש. So they are demanding for us, because we are in the 7th generation, and the whole advantage of the 7th, because he's the 7th to the first. And the first, his way of behaving was that he didn't look for nothing for himself, and even he didn't want the mesiras nefesh. כי ידע שכל עניינו הוא כמו שכתוב, ויקרא שם בשם הוויה כל עולם. Because he knew, he speaks here about who that is talked here, because it seems in a way that he speaks about Avraham Avinu, but then the next sentence says, ודוגמה ודוגמת הנהגת אברהם אבינו, it means that he speaks about here the Alter Rebbe.
I think it's continuing. He's saying
Continue.
he's saying about Avram, and now he's saying the dugma, and so it's like
Because
what was
dugma is like an example. He brings an example like
Yes.
Avraham Avinu. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like it seems
yes,
that.
yeah. Well, isn't that what
Okay.
what the Alter Rebbe said? He didn't want anything. The
Okay,
Alter Rebbe
so
said, right? I don't want anything. I don't want your Gan Eden. I don't want your I
yeah,
don't want I just want you yourself, right? That's just once.
yeah.
Didn't want anything. Okay.
Okay, so you know that all what he has to do is to bring Hashem in this world. Everybody should say Hashem's name. ודוגמת הנהגת אברהם אבינו, שהוא בא לכאלה מקומות שלא ידעו שם מאלוקות, לא ידעו מיהדות ולא ידעו אפילו מאלף בית. ובהיותו שם הניח את עצמו על הצד, לראות שהאחר לא רק ידע אלא גם יכריז, אגב שעד עתה הוא לא ידע מכלום, אבל כעת צריך אתה לראות שהוא גם יצעק כאל עולם. אברהם אבינו, like, so we have an example like from the Eberster, didn't know nothing about Yiddishkeit, didn't know even there's Aleph base, and when he was there, he put himself on the side, and the holy purpose also was announced, and the one that didn't know from nothing till now, he should announce, and you have to say that he will scream, that's the Eberster is the Eberster, Kel Olam. לא כל העולם, היינו שאלוקות הוא עניין בפני עצמו, ועולם עניין בפני עצמו, אלא שאלוקות מושב ושולט על העולם. Okay, so he says like this, that the other one should scream, kel olam, not ha-olam, because we say ha-olam, it seems that there's two identities. One is the Eibashter, that he is one thing, and the word is another thing. But the Eibashter, he is in charge, that he is the king of the world. So this is not how it should be, but the person who didn't know from nothing, he should scream, שעולם ואלוקות הוא כול אחד. That the word and Hashem is one thing. ועל ידי העבודה באופן כזה ימשך עיקר שכינה למטה בעולם הזה הגשמי והחומרי. And by this avoida, so the עיקר שכינה will come to this world, the physical and physical world. Okay? בדברים אלו נעשו היסוד והנשמה הפנימית של כל העבודה הגדולה במשך כל השנים שלאחר מכן ועד היום, על ידי אלפי השלוחים והמבצעים וכולי, והמבצעים וכולי וכולי, שהכל מכוון למטרה האחת והיחידה, לגמור המשכת השכינה ובתחתונים דווקא, ובדורנו זה דווקא. So all these things is going to be the fundament of and the neshama of all the internal neshama of all the avodah that we're doing all these years till today, that is being done by the shluchim, by the mivtzoim, etc., etc. Everything is based, everything is
has one purpose.
One purpose was to bring the Shekhinah to the Tachtonim Dafka. What did this Bobby wrote now? I didn't see, maybe for you too. She wanted you to repeat something?
Oh, just to go over this last bit.
You want to say it, maybe?
Yeah, so basically what we're saying here is the Rebbe was saying very clearly that we saw when the Rebbe talked about the fact that we're Dor Hashvi, right? In the very first Maimon, we know Basi Lagani. And what is the message of Basi Lagani? The Rebbe made the parallel between Avraham Avinu to Moshe, 7th generation, and so too of the Chabad Rebbeim from the Alter Rebbe until basically himself, till our generation. And what is the purpose of our generation? The Rebbe then said further on in the Mimer, the whole point is that we're the Dor Hashvi, and our job is to bring Elokus down to this world. And in what way? So just like Avraham Avinu went everywhere and was Megala, what Elokus to the world, to people who didn't even know Hashem. And this was a sikha actually in our sikha's project from last week. 2 weeks ago actually. The whole idea that Avraham Avinu, even in a way of forcing them, would make them acknowledge that Hashem is the Kel Olam. Hashem is the one. Everything in the world belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So in a way, like if that was Avram Avinu began that process, and of course it went on until Moshe Rabbeinu, where we have the final, we had Matan Torah, and the Shechina was fully revealed. So too, the Rebbe makes the parallel between the Alter Rebbe and us, 7 generations. All the work that the Alter Rebbe began, we continue. It went on every single generation, right up to our generation, with the thousands of shluchim and all the mitzvahs that are done, and we all have that one purpose. Just like we see from Avram to Moshe, Avram Avinu started it. The point was to make the world recognize Hashem is the world, not king of the world, but Hashem is the whole world. And that's, of course, what happened at Matan Torah. The Shekhinah was brought down. So, too, from the time of the Alter Rebbe until our time, we're 7 generations, and our whole purpose is to do that final step, to bring the Shekhinah back down to this world. Okay.
הרי שיש כאן דבר שלא היה מעולם, שנעמד איש מזרע דוד, ומצהיר שכעת הוא הזמן בו צריכה לבוא הגאולה, ורוצה להגשים זאת בפועל, ונוטל על עצמו את האחריות לכך. וצועד okay, so we have something that never happened before in the world. That there's a person from family of David, he gets up, and he says, and is declaring that now is the time for the geula, and he wants to materialize it in fire, and he takes upon himself the responsibility to bring Mashiach. וצועד לשם בצעדים ברורים ומעשיים, שכפי שהתבאר לעיל, והתבאר בפרטיות יותר בהמשך הפרקים, אפשר למצוא קווים מקבילים ברורים בין פעולותיו של הרבי לקו הפעולה של משיח, כפי שהרמב"ם מתאר אותו. And the Rebbe is going to there in a very practical, clear steps, like we explained before, and like we'll explain further. And we can see from here a very clear comparison to what Mashiach has to do according to the Rambam.
To what the Rebbe did. So the Rebbe set the goal. He set the mission with Bas Lagadi. He said very clearly what he expects to do. And when we see that throughout the years, slowly, the Rebbe was actually acting on that achrayus. He was taking that achrayus and saying, we're the generation that has to bring the Shekhinah down, finally, the Dir B'Tachtoin, the final Geula. And right through all the things Rambam says that Mashiach is going to do, we see how the Rebbe was doing that right through the years.
ומשנה לשנה, פעולות אלו הלכו והתחזקו והתרחבו, עד שבשנות הנונים הראו בעולם אירועים דרמטיים, שהרבי מפרש אותם כפעולות משיח וגלות משיח, הניסים של מלחמת המפרץ, והתפרקות מעוצמת הכפירה הקומוניסטית, ובלשונו החלה פעולתו של משיח על העמים, כפי שהתבאר יותר בפרקים הבאים. So for every year, those פעולות going and being stronger and wider, till the years of the Nunim, that there were dramatical events happening in the world. And the Rebbe explained them that those are things that Mashiach is doing, and this is the revelation of Mashiach. And particularly, it talks here about the miracle that happened in the Gulf War, and also the fact that the communist regime was breaking down. And like the Rebbe said, that Mashiach started to toil already on the goyim. And like we'll explain later. ככל שהלכו וגברו הפעולות, כך התבררה יותר ויותר משמעותן של העובדות, שאין זה רק נשיא ומנהיג בישראל ככל הנשיאים שלפניו, אלא נשיא שמתכוון לתקן העולם כולו, ולהביא גאולה בפועל ממש. So, as with the time that the powers of the Rebbe became stronger, so then we understood more the facts, the meaning of those facts. And the Rebbe is not a regular Nasi like was the previous Rabbeim, but he's the Rebbe, the Nasi that he really planning he means to fix the world and bring the Geula בפועל ממש. ועד שבקיץ של שנת תינוסה נחתם פסק דין של רבנים ומורי הוראה שהרבי הוא גואל ישראל והוא בחזקת משיח, והחלו חתימות על קבלת מלכותו של מלך המשיח והכרזה אחי אדוננו מורינו ורבנו מלך המשיח לעולם ועד. So till in the summer of the year 91, there was a psak din from Rabbonim and Morei Horot that the Rebbe is the Mashiach, he's Goyal Israel and he's Becheskas Mashiach. He decided to sign accepting the Rebbe's Malchus, and also announcing יחי אדוננו. וגם הרבי מצידו החל לדבר גלויות ומפורשות על נשיא דורנו, משיח שבדורנו, וחוזר על כך פעם אחר פעם כדבר הפשוט וכולי. והדברים יצאו מוגהים וחתומים בטבעת המלך, על מנת שהתפרסמו בכל העולם. So also the Rebbe from his side decided to speak clearly and openly and explicitly about the Nasi Ador, that he is the Mashiach in our generation. And he repeated about it every time like a simple, self-understood thing. And everything is, the Rebbe was Magia those sichos, and it kind of stamped his stamp on it. And the purpose was that everything will be spread in the whole world. ובהמשך לזה, בשנת תשנ"ג, נעשה לסדר קבוע של הכרזת ושירת יחי אדוננו מורנו ורבנו מלך המשיח עולם ועד בפני הרבי, ובעידודו הברור והמקוון, כידוע ומפורסם. ובכל העולם יצא כל הדלו פסיק, שהרבי מלובביץ' הוא המלך המשיח. So as a continuation to that, in the year תשנ"ג, it became a permanent thing. Every time when the Rebbe came out to the balcony, Chassidim used to sing יחי אדוננו, and the Rebbe was encouraging it very clearly, like everybody knows, and it was also advertised. And the whole world actually already heard about this, and it doesn't stop. The Rebbe is משיח שישנו בכל הדורות, בדורנו זה נמצא בצורה גלויה, הן התגלות מציאותו בתור מלך המשיח, ועד להתחלה מסוימת של התגלותו, we have the conclusion that the Mashiach that was there in every generation, in our generation, he was in a revealed way, that he started his Metzias like Melech HaMashiach, but also it started in a way a bit to be open to everybody by his actions. What's different between those that we see and between those two things? Sara, what's the difference between התגלות מציאותו בתור מלך המשיח והתגלותו לאין כל?
Okay,
why
so
this has just started?
Okay, so the difference is the first one, his Galas Metzius B'Tur Melech HaMashiach, is one to Mashiach himself. So that's a level where he knows the Metzius that he is Melech Mashiach, and he knows that. And then you come to the next stage where that it becomes very open to other people, that everybody else recognizes by the things that he's doing that he's Mashiach. Right, so there were that's what we were saying, the three stages. Number one, it's someone from Zera David who has the neshama of Mashiach, who's ra'i to be Mashiach. Then there's the Hizgalus Metziusai, that we recognize that he is Melech Mashiach, that he himself is given that message. So Hashem tells him, and he takes on the achrayus to do it, and then everybody else recognizes it through his actions. Okay, so v'im nirtzeh, and if we would like, we could look in hindsight, right? Now that we are looking back. So in Tafshin Beis, when the whole idea of Mashiach was so clear, was so revealed, we were certain, right? We were certain then Mashiach was coming. So the Rebbe was having us look backwards. Looking back, pay attention to what the Rebbe said to us at the very beginning in Tafshin Aleph. And so the Rebbe was like in Tafshin Aleph, the Rebbe was helping us kind of in hindsight look back and see and try to understand what the Rebbe was trying to help make us understand then. So helping us look and see in a new way to really appreciate what happened in Tafshin Yud Aleph. L'chein efshar limtzai sheb'shnas Tafshin Beis Rebbe maktir at Kufa shemiyud al Shvat Tafshin Yud Aleph ve'elech. So for example, where we see how the Rebbe is making us look at the whole Nesius in a different way. So in Tafshin Beis, the Rebbe talked about this period of Yud Aleph Shvat Tafshin Yud Aleph. In other words, the time when the Rebbe accepted the Nesius. Hayoim ba Rebbe kibel sinasiyas ketkufa shehi b'fchines yemais Mashiach. So the Rebbe said it was in Toshin Nunat, right in Toshin Nun Beis. The Rebbe was told the period of time from when he became Rebbe Yud Al Shvat Toshin Yud Aleph until that point as the tkufa of Yemais HaMashiach. Shekafi Shir Skav Lakama, as we are going to soon explain. Hakavana kan he liyam shemashiach nimsa ba'alam upal pu'ulasav aykaydem hagula. So we talk about Yemais Mashiach. The Rebbe, the Kavanah was the time, the days of Mashiach, when Mashiach is in the world and he's doing the actions that Mashiach has to do, but it's before the actual Geula, right? In other words, before we all end up back in Eretz Yisrael with the Beis Hamikdash. Another sikha from that same time, Maram is the Rebbe, and we're saying from that same time, we're talking about Beshalach Tafshin Nun Beis. The Rebbe hinted that Yud Al Shvat, of course, the day that he took on the Nesias, is a day connected with fulfilling the mitzvah of appointing a melech. So even if at that time, Yud Al Shvat Tashrin Yud Aleph, when those things actually happened, that people really didn't fully realize what was happening. And even when the Rebbe said the Maimer, people didn't fully grasp what the Rebbe was really telling us. But as the years went on, as the work of the Rebbe, the Avodah of the Rebbe went on and spread and got stronger and became much clearer. So too, in hindsight, retrospectively, we look back and we say, now we really understand what actually happened on Yud Al Shvat, Tafshin Yud Aleph. That is when a king from Beis David became king, stood up. And it was from that point that we actually entered in a certain way into the era that we call Yemais Mashiach. And last little bit. And even if we say after all this time, we can see in many places that we still don't have this unified identity of the Rebbe and Mashiach. In other words, because B'Pashtus, we're still here, B'Pashtus. As we can see that in the Rebbe's, in the Lashon of the Rebbe in the Sichas, the Rebbe Mamshech is Yachol Sidarenu Mashiach Tzitenu Kishtei Demuis Nefrodes, because we see that there's still not this complete unity of these two concepts, because the Rebbe still continued to refer to Nesidah Reinu and Mashiach Tzidkenu as two separate people. The Rebbe doesn't make them as one person, as we are, of course, yearning for. And we can see this particular point, right? This diuk in the Rebbe's Lashon, Chaisar Tavshnun Beis, and it is Bilti Muga. Mamshik Nesidarenu es Avaydasai v'Shlichusai b'Shleimus. So the Nasi of our generation is continuing his Avodah and his Shlichus fully. Achis Achad im Mashiach Tzidkenu, until he will become unified, become one with Mashiach. So we hear from the Rebbe's word, so we see it, and when the Rebbe was saying that the Mashiach Tzidkenu, as we say Mashiach Vadai, the idea, so we have Cheskas Mashiach for sure. We have the Nasi who stood up, who has the Shem Mashiach, he understands, he's got the Achrayus of Mashiach. But Mashiach Tzidkenu, as in Vadai, is when we have a Beis Hamikdash. And until that point, the Rebbe was still talking about in the Nasi is doing his Avodah until it will become Mashiach Tzidkenu, as in the final Geula. And until we have that final Geula, we're just not there yet. And we need to be there. It's ready over time. Okay, Liba. Go ahead, do the Sikum. So the Sikum will then now cover what you missed from the week before.
Okay. הרמב"ם מתאר את התגלות משיח בבחינה חיצונית, לפי הפעולות אותן משיח פועל. So the Rambam describes the Isgalus of Mashiach in an external way, according to the פעולות that he did
in the world.
in the world. שלפעולות אלו ישנה משמעות הלכתית מחייבת, שלפיהן אפשר לקבוע את ההגדרות של חזקת משיח ומשיח ודאי. So those פעולות that he did, there is a halachic meaning that מחייבת, I say מחייבת, is obligated, and then according to them we can say the exactly definitions of חזקת משיח ומשיח ודאי. הפעולות אלו אינן אלא תוצאה וביטוי של כוח המשיח הפנימי. But actually those פעולות that he did, it's only a revelation of his of internal כוח of משיח. ולכן מצד האמת התגלות משיח מתחילה כאשר משיח מקבל את השליחות האלוקית ומתגלה בו הכוח הפנימי של נשמת משיח ומכיר בעצמו שהוא המשיח. So from the point of truth, this Isgalus of Mashiach starts when the Mashiach himself gets the shlichus from the Eibishter, and he revealed, and the power of Mashiach, of the neshama of Mashiach, is revealed in him. He knows himself that he is the Mashiach, and like the Rebbe said, ראשון הרבי, התגלות מציאותו בתור מלך המשיח, ובהמשך לזה באות פעולות משיח המתוארות ברמב"ם. Like the Rebbe said, is that it's a revelation of the reality as a Mashiach, and then he continues to do all the פעולות that Mashiach does, like the Rambam describes. ועל דרך המבואה בנוגע למלכות שלמה ושאול, שגם לאחר שנמשכו והוכתרו למלך, עדיין את העם כמלך, על שם כוח המלכות הפנימי, הרצון למלוכה שהתגלה בנפשם. על דרך זה הוא גם בנוגע למלך המשיח. So the example for it, like Sara mentioned, it's the Malchus of Shlomo and Shaul. They were appointed already to be king, but Tachlis, they didn't start yet to be the kings, even though they have already the name of Melech, and people refer to them and respected them like Melech. And why they were called Melech? Because they had this koyach that the Malchus was internal in them. They had the willing to be a melech that was revealed in their neshama. And the same thing is about Mashiach. ואומנם בתחילה, בהתגלות מציאותו, זהו בעיקר גילוי רוחני נפשי שלא כל ישראל מכירים אותו. ורק כאשר משלים את פעולותיו לגאול את ישראל, אז יכירו בו הכל והתקבצו. So the first stage that it only reveals his reality as a Mashiach, it's mainly in his neshama. And the whole Am Yisrael doesn't recognize it. And only when he's doing the pa'ulas to redeem Am Yisrael, then everybody will know it and will come to him. בנוגע לדורנו.
One second. So it's only not only when he's doing it, it's only when he finishes it and finally redeems it that everybody will finally acknowledge it. As we're going to see later on, there are even stages in that. So like the Rebbe will see it, the Rebbe said, like at the beginning, even David HaMelech, not all of Bnei Israel recognized that he was who he was. So the same thing here. It's only when Mashlimas Pulas of the guys Israel, it's only when we finally have the very final thing that we can say that all of Bnei Israel will finally wake up and recognize.
Okay. בנוגע לדורנו, הרב אומר במילים ישירות, התחיל להתקיים השלח נא ביד תשלח. ישנה לא רק המציאות דמשיח, אלא גם ההתגלות דמשיח. So about our generation, the Rebbe said in clear words that it started to the שלח ביד תשלח, and it's not only the reality of Mashiach, but also the revelation of Mashiach. שלכאורה, כוונתו להתגלות האמורה כאן, התגלות מציאותו בתור מלך המשיח. So it seems that the Rebbe means here to say that revealing, when he speaks about the revealing of Mashiach, it means the third probably. ותכף ומיד תהיה בעזרת השם התגלותו לעין כל כשישלים את פעולותיו. And the השם soon will be, right away, will be with Hashem's help, will be the revelation of Mashiach that everybody will see it and he will complete all his paulos.
Amen. May that be immediate.
Amen. Amen. Take it from Miyad Mamash.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are waiting. Thank you so much. Appreciate.
You're very welcome.
Yes, koyach. Thank you very much. Yeah.
You're very welcome. And we should talk a meet very soon in Yerushalayim with Mashiach.
Amen.